Cool. We might as well start. Just gonna say thanks everybody for coming. I know it's, you haven't seen a frisbee or played with, probably maybe even touched a frisbee for a long time. Who knows? And I know it's tricky to find the motivation to come to sessions like this when it feels like ages since you've actually been on a pitch playing frisbee. But yeah, it's all kind of good reminding everybody how to play frisbee, and hopefully it's somewhat interesting, and you learn something along the way. So thanks for coming. So we're gonna do a quick recap of some of the basics that we learnt last term. But if anybody more experienced, it's a great way to just make sure you can identify when something is going wrong on a pitch and how to change it. So I'm going to hand over to my glamorous assistant, Ollie, to go through the first clips. But I'll be playing them on here just so it's a bit more seamless. Cool. So if I just play the first clip and then Ollie can do some chit-chatting. Yeah, so it's spot things to be improved.
Evans. Oh, miscommunication with Evans and Barr changing his direction just quickly. USA with the disc.
I'll play it one more time.
Evans. Oh, miscommunication with Evans and Barr changing his direction just quickly. USA with the disc.
I don't know if Ollie's having technical issues.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go. I was trying. Yeah, so can we just play it one more time because I wasn't watching?
Yeah.
Cheers.
Evans.
Yeah, so if you want to just
miscommunication
write
with
down in
Evans
the
and
chat
Barr
what you think the cause of the turnover was, or what maybe they should have done differently, if anyone has any ideas. Okay. So it seems like the throw was just sort of missed and the cutter sort of doesn't sprint back all the way. So they kind of hesitate. If we play it again, they kind of hesitate just there. Whereas they should just keep sprinting back to make it as obvious for the thrower what they want to happen. You need to make it as easy for the handler as possible.
Yeah, so this is kind of one of our basics from last term, where we have a stack here, and then we have a handler and a dump. And what's going wrong here, as Ollie said, is the throw to this player who's the dump. So yeah. Cool. So, oh, speedy. Next clip.
Round through traffic, safe in the hands of Tingle. Oh, and a D there.
Play it.
At this, she is among the best of us at this sport.
Round through traffic, safe in the hands of Tingle. Oh, and a D there.
So, does anyone have any ideas what went wrong there? Fair enough. All right. Yeah, I agree with Sid. Sid said that two people. Oh, sorry, Sasha, mistake. Two people have cut at the same time, same place. Right. Generally, we always want to be cutting from the back of the stack. So we see them coming in now. Basically, we want to cut one at a time because if 2 people go, then there's more defenders, more confusion, more people getting in the way. And it sort of leads to the turnover where it's all just a bit messy and people aren't really, it's just not organized enough. And again, we're not giving the handler enough information about what they should do with the disc. Yeah.
Does anybody know in this situation here? So this handler holds onto the disc for quite a long time. Can anybody think of anything that, I don't know, her team could kind of help her with, so that she doesn't have it for so long? So if we go back to the start, someone could dump her, exactly. So we have these people who kind of run through and they kind of just go straight away. But if they kind of move into the dump position, and then once you're back here, you have more kind of space to use. If this Canadian player came back and then, I don't know, pushed forwards or came even further back, if you come behind the thrower, then people are going to be less likely to defend it really well. So making sure we always have a dump. This person looks very lonely at the moment.
Oh, and D there.
Cool. Next one.
Properly recover throughout the
So the throw is obviously quite lazy. I know from watching the game that if we could pause it, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, so if we just look at that first bit again, the throw is obviously very lazy. I know Oxford Brooks only had 7 players for this game, and they've played 9 points in a row, so they're probably very tired. But if we look at the first cut, if someone could explain what this person does wrong, briefly, after they've made their cut, that is.
Nice.
Anyone?
So the cut this person's doing is when they come from the back of stack and they run under, and then they do something kind of wrong.
Exactly, Redford. They don't clear out. So if we go back, they just kind of hang around in the space. And if you watch their defenders can then just hang out in the middle, clogging up the lane. And that means that the throw is a lot harder to pull off.
Nice.
And there's not as much space.
They sort of bob there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So Bears then pick up the disc, get the D, and push it down the field. What do they do wrong as they get closer to the end zone? Something we definitely do a lot, I think.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So anything that could be improved in this kind of little bit that they do here? Anybody have any ideas? Or anything that they do well? Do you think there's something that they don't do well as well?
Nice.
People are typing. At least they were.
Oh, wow.
Exactly, Ed. Yeah. They don't set up their offense. They just kind of
Nice.
all hang out. I think they get a bit they just want to score the goal, push it in. But in reality, those 2 people downfield are just sort of hanging about and meaning that no one can get free. in the end, the throw gets kind of forced through,
Oh, wow.
and there's so many defenders there that it's bound to get intercepted. Yeah,
He's like,
Oscar's right. It's okay to go quick when you get a turnover. It's often good to go fast when the defense isn't set up, but if you don't go fast, you need to set up and run an organized offense. Cool.
Yeah, there's lots
I
of
think we can
people
move on to
just
the next one.
randomly running about, which is never good. Next clip.
Because he was throwing it
They
away.
always do stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah.
So,
It
can
just
we pause it there?
made it about halfway.
So straight away, there's something clearly wrong with the way their offense is set up. Anyone got any ideas as to what that is? Shouldn't be too. There's no dump, exactly. So when the person picks up the disc, they are walking to pick up the disc. Someone needs to come back to help them.
He's like, did it because he was throwing it a win.
Either they should be calling someone back, or someone needs to recognize that they need to have a dump option. In the end, they don't have one, and the cuts clearly don't get free, so they're forced to just huck it up. A very, very risky option. Always make sure your offense is set up before you pick up the disc. Okay, next one.
Don't know. Mine are going to be some weird. Oh, let's go play.
Let's go, Bears!
So yeah, a similar thing happening this time that's happened in a previous clip. What was going wrong there after we get the first completion?
Don't know. Mine are going to be some weird. Oh, let's go play.
Let's go, Bears!
So clearly we've got two people cutting again at the same time. We get the first cut to go through, and what I think happens is the person who sort of cuts deep, they sort of filter back into the back of stack, so they think it's their turn to go. The person who's at the back of stack after that original person goes deep thinks they're back of stack, so they both go at the same time, and in the end neither of them get free. So someone goes off deep, and now there's two people who think they're at the back, and they both cut. In that situation, the person who cuts deep needs to filter into the stack into the middle, or tell the person, communicate with the back of stack that they are going to cut, or they want them to cut, just so everyone understands what's going on and we avoid confusion.
One other thing, anybody notice anything weird that this player does? I'll give you a hint. It's to do with the way that she pivots. Yeah, they turn their back to the play, which is not ideal. So when she does this, if we see, she pivots out the right way, and then she flips all the way around so that she's kind of pivoting away from the player instead of like towards them, which means that for quite a lot of the time she can't see like the thing, which is pretty rogue move and definitely something which I would maybe it's for the momentum. Yeah, maybe. But it's something that I would advise, because you can't really see what's happening when you're turned the other way. Next clip.
To be honest, I kind of want a bit of help for this one. Watched them all before. Wasn't sure what was going on.
So if we go back to the start of this clip, if we just go to here, can anybody notice something maybe about the structure of this team? So we can see that they have the handler and then a dump next to them, and then the stack. But anything else? Yeah, the stack is very slow and it's very shallow and squashed. So these people are so close together and going the wrong way. Yeah, I think they might be pushed a little bit towards the sideline, which we've got all of this pitch space over here, which they're not using, which means their throws are really pressured. which makes it really hard. So we've got really good that they've got a handler and they've got a dump next to them, but their stack, if they just spread it out a bit and move it kind of over here, if you can see my mouse, then they could have loads more space to kind of run about for their cuts, which means it's easier to get free. That was basically the whole thing of this thing. So if we see the first cut, such little space over here. Oh, Hugh being really loud in the background. And it's still lots of people just hanging out, very squished together. And later we'll see why it's a bad idea to have a very squished stack.
Okay, so this one, if we could just pause it when the person actually picks up the disc. There's quite a lot of confusion going on because the person, sort of misfields the disc. If we pause it there for maybe just about 1 more second. If we pause it there, like, what's wrong with the way they're set up at the moment? Yeah, not sure who that is, but the stack's obviously way too far away. And whoever's on disc sort of misfields it. They should be sort of 10 yards further up, but it ends up going through their arms. I think they're about to do that, Graham. They're about to center the disc, but I just paused it earlier. The stack's way too far away, and it means that when they try and run the reset with the continuation disc, it's a much harder throw because it's such a longer throw. Yeah, so ideally they should have stopped it the first roll, and then as soon as he picked it up, just threw it instantly. But doesn't always happen. And then here, that undercut from the front of the stack is like quite a really long throw, and it was kind of windy in these conditions as well. So it's quite a hard throw. If they were 10 yards closer in, it's been much easier to get that throw off. So when they see that they've misfielded the discs, everyone should have run back at least 10 yards straight away, rather than still staying up in the same place and sort of walking back.
Yeah, so for anybody confused, when we say centering the disc, we mean the person who catches the ball, so this big throw that we've just had, they will throw it into the middle of the pitch to make it a bit easier. So if you're on the sidelines, it's quite hard. So for this person, it's really hard because you have less space. So if we throw it into the middle of the pitch and a little bit up the pitch, it makes it a lot easier. We basically get a free pass, which is what they do here. So they put it into the middle of the pitch so they have more space. And then the continuation that Ollie was talking about is this next one, the next person here, which is kind of the next pass after the centering pass, which is why it's like the continued pass or the continuation, as we call it. Does anybody know the rules for pulls? So what would have happened? Can anybody tell what the rule is if this person touches the disc before it hits the floor? So if in this situation here where instead of them being back here and then touching it, if he accidentally hit it in the air and then touched the floor, what would have then happened? Woofdiff rules. Yeah. Graham was trying to make a joke there. Take from the mark. Not quite. It is a turnover. You are indeed correct. But it means that it just becomes a turnover where the disc is touched. So it's as if you drop the pull So if the pool, which is in outdoors, if someone throws it to you and then you accidentally touch it and then drop it, it's as if your own team has thrown it to you, which would then mean if you dropped any disc that someone throws to you, then it counts as a turnover. So that means that Oxford Brooks, so the team in grey here, would get the disc instead, and it would have been in the location where the dropped, where they touched it, so where the turnover occurred. But on to rules later.
So for this one, we're just looking for why the turnover happened. Really, what's the mistake that Bears in green were making? Ambition, probably. Give it a few more seconds. Anyone? Yeah, the guy just sat in the space. It seems, I do think that they were trying to run some sort of play, because when this person picks up the disc, everyone on the sideline starts screaming end zone. So I assume that means some kind of thing is happening. But this play where the guy on that left-hand side, this guy just standing in, he's just not in any space really. Obviously he points to where he wants it, but that throw is a bit ambitious really. It's much better if he gets into the middle of the stack and runs a proper cut.
Yeah, so as Paddy said, I think the end zone play that was called, you can hear them shout if I turn it up. Let me go back. So ISO is short for isolation, for anybody who doesn't know, and it means that we try and get one person who's isolated. Oh, it's so noisy. One person who's isolated in the end zone. So if we see we've got a stack of people here, and then we've got someone who's isolated, and it means that this person should have lots of space to move about and cut. But the issue is that they don't move. They just kind of stand here and they're like, oh, I'm free. But they're not really free, and it's very easy for the left players to just mark them well. So if you ever hear someone shout ISO on the pitch, or the other team shout ISO, for example, then this is probably what's going to happen. They'll get someone at the front of stack. So someone at the front of stack to become into space, and then they're going to try and move about to get free by themselves. So yes. Yeah, it was a tricky breakthrough. Whoa, rules. Cool. So this next section, we're going to look at some clips where kind of a call has been made. So on pitch, somebody has said something because the rules have either been broken or something's happened on the pitch. And if you know what the rule is, feel free to type in the comments what you think should happen next. We'll also go through the different rules as well if you don't know what it is, or you can have a guess as well. For quite a lot of these, there's not really a right or wrong, especially if there's fouls involved. That's very just what you think it looks like. So take a guess, and we can then see what happens. So this first clip.
Now a chance for Buzz Bullets to break. We'll see what the Pony O-line defense can do. And the Buzz Bullets D-line offense is a big huck downfield. Garvey is tracking it down. He will not get there. Instead, it's caught by number 18, Furuzawa. Furuzawa centers it.
So if we go back a bit, right to the start of this clip. Ooh. We have a dump kind of throw,
We'll see
and
what
then
the O-line defense can do.
what we're looking at is this person. What was called was a travel. So does anybody know what travel means? Anybody who knows the rules a little bit? Ooh, Dan's typing. Yeah, so moving with the disc. So in Frisbee, you're not allowed to move the disc, as we all know. And if you do move the disc, then the other team can call a travel on you, which is when you have moved the disc. So that's most of the time is a changing direction with the disc. So you're allowed to slow down with the disc up to I think it's now 3 steps. But it used to be that only when your pivot foot landed, you could then take like a step. But if we watch this in kind of slow-mo, see if you guys think it was a travel.
We'll see what the Pony O-line defense can do. And the Buzz Bullets D-line off.
So if we go back a little bit. So this next throw is what we're looking at, and the person. Do you guys think it's a travel? Do you think it was a good call to make? I don't think the poll's working, Ben. You can just type yes if you think. So Redford said it wasn't a travel. Paddy said it was a travel. Lina said yes. Cool. So if we go back, I probably would have called this as a travel myself, but people have different opinions. So because he kind of takes an extra little gallop, and if I was the defender at that point, means that I have to get further round than I was originally, and therefore it's kind of him moving means that it's harder for me to defend. Therefore, I would have maybe called a travel. Right. So as he did call a travel, does anybody know what happens next? So these people realise a travel was called and kind of stop. Where should the disc end up? Redford says it goes back to him. What does anybody else think? Got a thumbs up from Sasha. Moves himself back to where he should have been and retains possession. Possession, yeah. Does the stool count change? Question mark. Devo's. Paddy said nope. We'll talk through it. We've got 2 more people typing, and then we can see what happens and what the rules are for it as well. Oh, they've stopped typing. Cool. So, yeah, when a travel is called in this situation, so it affects the play. So what we mean by affects the play is the fact that
we'll see what the Pony.
A travel is called on this player. He then throws the disc, but because he's already released it, it then affects this throw. Therefore, the disc goes back to that player, as we will see, and it should come in on the same stall count depending on what the stall is. So if the stall is higher than 8, then it will come in back on 8. But I think he holds it for like 2 seconds or something. So it will come in on the same stall count, and he just gets kind of everything resets.
Instead, it's caught by.
We can see this happening Thrown. They realise it's been a travel, and then it gets thrown all the way back. And we can see, so this is a game advisor, this person in orange, and for WFDF, so Ultimate Frisbee under WFDF rules, which is World Flying Disc Federation, which is the rules that we play, you can have a game advisor. They kind of, I don't know, they're like an extra person on the sideline who you can ask about the rules, and they have basically extra eyes. So they're they can't tell you, they don't say, so if it's not been called, they wouldn't say that that was a travel. It would just keep going. But because a travel has been called, they would make sure that everybody knows it's a travel, and they can do that by using some hand signals. So they put their hands up, and then you can see he does the travel call, and that's what the travel hand signal is.
Let's hear what Jonas Schaefer says, the mic'd up observer.
They did show the replay.
Was your travel call? You called the travel.
So yeah, if you listen to what the people are saying, they say a travel was called, and then I think in Japanese that was they changed direction. There was something about direction at least. And the disc comes back in on 1.
Is everyone reset? Okay, we're in on 1.
So they wait for everybody to reset back into the positions they were when the travel was called.
If we see
and then the guy in white will count 3, 2, 1, and then disc in, and everybody starts moving again. So
this all day, this is something either to keep those feet planted.
If we keep watching, so if I go back to when play restarts and watch very carefully for what people are doing and where they are, and something else happens.
Might be a call back here.
Yeah.
I think Harper Garvey is calling either a travel or that he was out of bounds. Perhaps his momentum carried him out of bounds and he should have tapped the disc in before he threw it. But regardless, this may be coming back to the thrower, or at least to the spot on the field.
So a travel has been called again. I don't think on the same person. It's not the same person, but a travel has been called again, and we can watch the I think they show a replay. So travel again. Can anybody see why a travel has been called here? Or so if we play that little replay again, anybody know why travel was called? Yeah, so Paddy is indeed correct. The disc is thrown from off pitch. So if we go back to it, he catches it inbounds and then he kind of sidesteps off the pitch, which doesn't mean it's a turnover. You just have to come back onto the pitch. It was called straight away, and therefore, because there was a completed throw and then quite a long time after that, there was then a turnover. Well, you could maybe retract it, but it would be really bad spirit. So what Dan's talking about, who said, could they retract the call, was that if you make a call, you can say, no, I don't want to make that call again, if it either doesn't really count towards anything. So maybe you called a travel on someone who like moved a tiny bit, and you realise it didn't make much difference to the play, and therefore you can retract it. So say, it's fine, I retract my call, everything can keep going.
We see this all day. This is something either both teams are going to have to adjust to. Japan, the Buzz Bullets are going to have to really find a way to keep those feet planted. This is a big hut coming in again.
But if we see in this case, most of the pitch kind of stops. So here we have like 3 of the players not doing anything and stopped. And there's already a throw and then another throw, which is why I don't think it's retracted. So considering that it's not retracted and there has been a travel call, does anybody know what should happen next? No? Ed and Dan are taking a crack at it. This returns to when the call was made as well as the player's positions. Indeed, you are very correct. Yeah, so everything just goes back to when the call was made, which means that the player who travelled on the sideline gets this back, and everybody just goes back to where the travel was made. So if we see here, the person on the sideline gets the disc back, and then everybody will move back to where they were when this happened. So yeah, that's the travel rule. Cool. One thing to note in the rules that we play, they say in this clip that he needs to tap it in, but we don't play with that rule. You don't need to tap it in. You just need to make sure that you're in bounds. So he should have made sure that his feet were inside the pitch. He doesn't have to tap it in, whereas they play that you have to tap it in because this is the US Open and the US the US Ultimate or the UAU rules are slightly different. USU? I can't remember. Cool. So that was a very long thing about travels, but I hope that makes sense. So we can now move on to the next one.
Line. Fast cuts, relieving that pressure down the line again.
Cool. So that's pretty quick, this one. But can anybody see what call it is? So the call is made here. So it's another travel call. Can anybody tell me what should happen next in this situation? And do you guys think it is a travel? Both feet. I think it's, yeah, it's just a pivot foot, sorry. Yeah, so just the foot that you would pivot on. Graham, Dan and Sasha typing. Well, you can't take the disc for a walk. Yeah, so he does kind of just, we go back to super slow-mo. Once he catches the disc, the reason why this is called as a travel, because he kind of just walks around a little bit. And because he's changed direction that he's slowing down, it means a travel is called. If he just slowed down in a straight line, so when he catches the disc, if it instead he just slowed down and carried on going this direction, it wouldn't have been a travel. Because he turned direction and kept on going, a travel was called. Does anybody know what happens if in this situation a travel is called? Does play stop? Who gets the disc? What does a stall account come in again? back to the guy on the disc, same stall count. Or you can vote. So we have some people voting for he just steps back. So yeah, if we watch it again, then we can take a look. So the travel rule, if the travel is called straight away and the throw has not been thrown, the person's play does not stop, it keeps on going. So stall count will keep it going, etc. And the person just has to walk back and people are still running about on pitch. And that's all that happens. If you see, he points at the floor where he's meant to put his foot. And then you just step back and play keeps on going. And yeah, he shouldn't have tapped the floor. So this is what I was saying, where the US play a rule where they have to tap the floor to put the disc in. But because this is WFDF rules, he doesn't need to do that. So nice. So now we're moving on to fouls.
That's a huge undercut and phenomenal layout bid from Molly Lewis. Unfortunately, it booked a clean bid for 99% of it, and at the very end.
So I won't put the commentators on, but we'll see a slow-mo, and do you guys think this is a foul? So as Frisbee is a non-contact sport, you're obviously not meant to barge into people, but there's a few instances where kind of two people go for the same thing and therefore they kind of collide with each other. But if kind of the offense thinks that they couldn't get the disc because they got so badly hit out of the way that therefore they could maybe call a foul. So we have some people saying, ouchie, nope, but it is dangerous play by the defense. Sure, if it's dangerous, it's a foul. Dangerous play is a foul without contact, basically, because someone avoided the contact. Cool. If I just read out what dangerous play means from the rules. So dangerous play is actions demonstrating reckless disregard for safety of fellow players or posing significant risk of injury to fellow players and other dangerously aggressive players, and considers dangerous plays and must be treated as a foul regardless of whether or not contact occurs. The rule is not superseded by any other rule. If it is dangerous, if the dangerous play call is accepted, it must be treated as the most relevant foul. So if you're in a situation where you think someone did something which either you could have got really hurt by it, or you think they were so foully that it became dangerous. So if someone accidentally hits you, it might not be super dangerous, but you can still call a foul. But if it was really dangerous, then you can call a dangerous play even if you got hit or didn't get hit. So a dangerous play could be a foul, or it could be the fact that you didn't get hit, but you still think someone, I don't know, if they lay down in front of you and then therefore you didn't go for a disc, but if you did go for it, you would have been like wiped out. You could call dangerous play, and no other rules supersede it, basically. So that's what Redford was talking about. So he was saying that it was dangerous play. So yeah, if it was in this situation dangerous play, then it would also be a foul, as contact was made. But if there wasn't any contact, it could still be dangerous play without being a foul, if that makes sense. So if I play it again. And then a receiving foul. So as an offensive player, you are receiving the disc and therefore it will be receiving foul. Occurs when a player initiates non-minor contact with an opponent before, while, or after either player makes a play on the disc. So we get some different angles going on there. Anybody have feels pretty foul-y from White? That's what Paddy says. White changes direction more than Black, I think. Yeah, so I would have probably said that it was either not a foul, but just incidental contact. So they both went to the disc and they both went into each other, and therefore they both hit each other, but because they did it kind of equally, you say it's incidental contact because they both did it in the kind of the same way. We see here White kind of comes towards the disc, whereas Black is kind of running straight on. Go back a tiny bit. But it's very close, and some people say that, I don't know, the aftermath of it was very foul-y. But we can see what happens next. So yeah, so if we look here, the foul is retracted. So the American player who made the foul call, this player who made the foul call said, well, actually, I don't think it was a foul, or we both contacted each other, and therefore it's just a turnover. And so Canada get the disc back. Well, they pick up the disc. So that's what happens next. Nice. Cool. So if we just go back to the start of this, and if anybody has any comments on anything kind of rules related in this clip. Obviously there's some tactics going on wrong, but do you guys think this was a foul, this situation here? I think they do a slow-mo of it so we can see in a little bit more detail. I think that was always going to end badly. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, so the USA player kind of jumps up without regard for anybody around her, and therefore when she comes down, she kind of barges into the Canadian player. We have Redford who's typing. Oh, stop typing. So yeah, so under the US rules.
Yeah, my message is sending. It didn't. I just gonna say it didn't affect the game, so there's no foul there. Oh, there it sends.
Yeah, you're very true. So in USA rules, this wouldn't count as a foul because it's after the play has happened. In WFDF rules, you could call it, but like it didn't affect, like Redford definitely said, it didn't affect the play. This disc was not going to be caught by this person. It's already on the floor by this time. And therefore, you maybe could call it a foul, but probably wouldn't. There wasn't much space to contest either, so not entirely her fault. Yeah, most definitely. So actually, the call that was made was a foul on the throw. So if we go back to the start of this clip, if I can find it. So this Canadian player called a foul on this throw. Can anybody tell me what the rule is if it is an uncontested foul on the throw? Yeah, so Sasha says back to thrower if incomplete at stall 0. So yeah, if there's an uncontested foul on this throw, so this Canadian player thought that the American player fouled her whilst she was throwing. So I think we get a slow-mo of the throwing motion in a little bit. You can maybe just see it there. So the Canadian player here thought that the USA player hit her hand as she was throwing it and therefore called a foul on the throw. You have to be completely stationary as a defense for it not to be a foul in this situation, which, well, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's a foul? Do you think it's not a foul? I'm not sure, to be honest. It's very close. Redford says it's a foul. Got Ed Iona. Ed says he doesn't think so. Nice. Oscar says, looks like the USA's hand is already up and stationary. I think the trainer hand was there before the handler got there. Yeah, so maybe just... It's very close. I don't know if there's any right way to sort out this call. And yeah, it's hard. It definitely affects the throw, but whether that was because the USA just got a point block, so hit it before, who knows. So what happened was the Americans contested it, and the Canadians got it back. What happens if it's a contested foul on the throw? Does anybody know what's different if it's uncontested and what's different if it's contested? So for anybody who doesn't know, if it's a contested foul, it means that the USA person thought it wasn't a foul, and therefore she contested it. If she thought it was a foul, she would say, yeah, it's uncontested, to the Canadian player. And the Canadian player, the person who called it. Does anybody know? Back to the thrower on whatever school count they were on where it's thrown. Yeah, so the only difference is the fact that if it's uncontested foul, it comes back in on 0. If it's a contested foul, it will be whatever stall count the throw was originally on, which was pretty high because this was, and then it gets thrown away straight away. So, you know, maybe it's karma. Oh, I just added this clip just for debate. Do you guys think it's the greatest? So greatest is when a person jumps out of the pitch, and before they put their foot or anything down out of pitch, they throw it back into the pitch. Because as soon as you touch out of bounds, which is outside the pitch lines, you are then counted as out, and the disc would then it would then be a turnover. So people would try and do what's called a greatest and throw it back in the pitch before they land. Oh, slow-mo, yeah, I should do this in slow-mo. That's a good idea. But super slow-mo. They do actually show it in slow-mo a bit later, but oh. Ooh. Dan says out. What do other people think? You can't take away not greatest, out, not greatest. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think it was a greatest. It was very close, but I think it was in this it was counted and caught. So it was counted as a greatest. Definitely a for effort. Cool. So we have another clip here. Where if you watch the person on the disc, something will happen.
Chance of this game to break.
Oh, and a slip from Davey. And I think he's hurt himself there.
So an injury is called. So the person on the disc, he slips over because it's really wet, and he hurts himself. So if we see in the background, this person is calling an injury. What happens next, or what should happen next? Does anybody know? If an injury is called by someone on pitch, or they are on the floor, what should happen next? Iona's typing. Ooh. Graham's also typing. Swap in a player from their team and an optional one from the other team. Play through the pain, call it later. They say Graham could be correct, but Iona is definitely correct. So if you're an offensive player and you have an injury, and you therefore stop play because of whatever injury you have to take a sub. This is a rule which not many people follow, but as an offensive player, and say you trip over or something and there's a stoppage, so at this moment everybody stopped because this player has hurt themselves, you have to swap off the pitch, and one of your team comes back into your position, and the other team also get a chance to swap someone off if they want to. People are always kind and let the person just play on after they've been on the floor for a bit, but that is not actually the rule. Once the person comes onto pitch, the new player, so I think it's, we see this person on the right.
The wet weather that London provides on occasions. It's a sort of a drizzly morning.
What should they do to restart play again? Does anybody know? Tap it in. Yeah. So the person on disc will tap the disc to say that the play is live again, so people can start moving. When an injury call, everybody freezes on pitch, and then once the new player comes on, they will tap the disc on the floor where the injury happened, pick it up, and then the other team, the USA guy, will go 3, 2, 1, disc in, and then everything starts again. Eee. When does the force tap the disc in instead? I don't know. I think in this instance, because the person had the disc, and yeah, it is a thing. So some instances the force will tap it in, so they'll go 3, 2, 1, tap it in. In this instance, I don't think it happens. So it will just be the Australian guy will tap the disc on the floor, and everything will be live again. I could be wrong about that. That's something to look at in more detail.
Provides on occasions. It's a sort of a drizzly morning.
Cool.
We had like it's like 4 turns.
Cool. So we have a pick called on the back of stack. This may be a simple one, but for those who don't know, a pick is when someone, a offensive player, runs through a collection of people and the defense can't follow. So there's so many people in the way that they can't run through and follow the person. So they call a pick saying, there's people in the way, I can't follow you. They put their hands up, call a pick, and something happens. What should happen next if a pick is called in this situation here? For anybody who does know. Does anybody know? So in this situation, because the throw hasn't been thrown, the Luffer player just walks back to where the pick happened. So you see her doing that. Everybody else should stay still or walk back to the moment where the pick happened, and the Warwick player should go onto the other side of the rest of the people, so there's no people in the way of her and her player anymore. So yeah, that does happen. The disc gets tapped in again, and we restart play. Cool. We have another situation here. Our final clip. Where we have another pick called, if we slow it down. So the pick happens here. We see it definitely is a pick, as the Australian player has to run through lots of players to get to his mark. So this player runs straight through the middle of these people, and therefore a pick is called. Cool. So there's a couple of things. What could this person do to make it more obvious that he's called a pick? Does anybody know? Hand signals, yeah. So if we so he calls a pick. This dude puts his hand up, but the person who called it could also do it to make it more obvious, which would have helped. So if he puts his hand up in the same way, then he could have made it more obvious. Yeah, and then what should happen after this pick is called? Where does the disc go back to? Does anybody know? Does this person stay with the disc, or does it go back, or I don't know, any other situation? So Paddy said the defender catches up, which and is liked by Sasha. So in this situation, if we look back to the start of this in slow-mo. Yeah, so in this situation, Iona is correct, just because if a pick is called and it's called before the throw happens, the throw then goes back to the original player. So if we see here, I go back to the start of the clip, and slow it right down. Pick's called, and then the throw's made. If it was the other way around and the throw was made and then the pick called, it would have been that it didn't go back to it, even if the pick had no bearing on the throw. So you give them benefit of the doubt. You kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt that the defender would have been there. Some situations this throw could have stayed if this defender didn't think that they were going to catch up with this thrower and they would have been free anyway. But if we go back to the start, they're pretty much right next to each other, and therefore there wasn't a big separation before the pick happened. The pick was the thing that made the separation. Therefore the disc would go back. If the defender was like, yeah, actually I think that I wouldn't have got that disc, then this player would have just kept it, and the disc would have been tapped in from the player who has it at the moment. But because this player thought that maybe they would have it, they want it to go back to the other player. So it's kind of per situation. I think this is what they're discussing at the moment, as to probably what they're discussing as to whether they would have thought that they would have had the disc or not. If we go back, finally, can anybody tell me what would have happened if this player drops the disc? So instead of catching it, they accidentally drop it. Yeah, going with a speedy reaction that, yeah, it would have been a turnover. So you have to keep playing until you have to make sure you catch the disc after a pick is called, because if you don't catch it, then a turnover could be made. So this would have been kind of, if this person dropped it, it could have been kind of a 50-50 of whether there would have been a turnover. Because the pick was called before the throw, they could have argued that, well, I didn't run fully for the disc because the pick was called ages ago. If the pick was called after the throw, you always have to make sure that you catch the disc, otherwise it will be a turnover. So yeah, it's picks. It's kind of situation per situation, and it's definitely something that to read the rules in a little bit more detail if you want to find out more about it, because they can be quite complicated. Most of the time, you kind of just do what makes sense. So, for example, in this situation, it goes back and needs to kind of just go back to where they were on the other side of the players, so another pick doesn't happen, which kind of makes sense, and therefore it happens.
The disc is going to go back. So early turn for the USA, looking to get this first break of the match.
Yeah, so this goes back, and that's that. Cool. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you had more of an insight into different rules and a little bit of a recap on stuff we did last term. This Saturday we won't be having an analysis session because Windows is happening, so make sure you sign up. If you don't have a team, there's a link to sign up by yourself and you'll get put together with other people. If you do have a team, make sure you sign up together. And a reminder that we still have a session on Sunday, which will be an interactive session. Hopefully it'll be nice weather, and therefore we'll do an outdoors one. If it's not going to be nice weather, we may do a kind of more of an exercise, kind of strength and conditioning type session. But we shall see what the weather's going to be like. Thanks everybody, hope you enjoyed it.